Okay, so back to this again, and I want to show how we can actually use local storage. One of the ways of storing up this data is to make use of local storage, and another one can also be using cookies. Okay, so but this helps you to store it in your browser, meaning that if this is cross-platform and you go to another browser or use another PC, the data you stored there will not actually reflect. It will only reflect on the browser, even if you close the browser and you open it again, because it is stored on the local storage. So for now, if we add our files here, which is still showing in our cart that we have this, and whenever we refresh this page, everything goes back to 0. So whenever there is a refresh, our data doesn't store anywhere. Okay. So one way to manage that is to store it in a local storage or to store it on your. So we are going to make modification on our providers. Mind this take context API. Okay. Our providers, we are looking at our value here, which is where we have that 0. So if this value here is say 110, and I save, I will have my default value there being 110. So, but because the data is not being stored anywhere, it goes out. Okay, so one way of storing the data is to use local storage, and I'm going to show us here how we can actually use local storage to do that. So to use local storage to store our data, there are two properties that we need to get note of. One is get item method, and another one is set item. Okay, so whenever I'm getting the item, using the get item method to get something that I've stored on the local storage, and using the set item method to actually set something in the local storage. So whenever I'm getting something from the local storage, is gets, but whenever I want to put something there, it is set. So the local storage stores files as JSON file. JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, meaning that whenever you store a file there, it's going to see it as JSON. And you know in JSON objects that everything is stringified, whether that be a key value pairs is stringified. So I'm going to show us that actually. Okay, so let's just see a little illustration of that. Let's go to the console. Let's say I have this data. Now my cat, you already know my cat looks somehow like this. So let's say I have a key called hi. Hi key with a text of hello. And maybe I have another key called none with a text of 20. So, this is supposed to be this. So I have that this way. And this. Okay, so when I open my cards, I can actually see that this is what it has. So if I want to make use of local storage, I can go to local storage and I see. I can just put that item there on the local storage. Okay. So and that is using something like JSON. So JSON does stringify, which is going to convert this to, I can say stringify cat from. Okay, cat is the variable that I have stored, and you see that it has stringified it. So you put everything as a string. Okay, so you can see my keys are now strings. Unlike here, my keys were not strings. My keys were seen as variables. So this is how he's going to take it up and then store everything. So you can see again that it's JSON. JSON don't actually have a name. So there's nothing like whenever you're creating a JSON, you don't say this is equal to this. Example, if you look at our package.json file here, Okay, you can see that it doesn't have a name. There is no name attached to it here. There is no name at all attached to it. Okay, so that's how it's being stored. Okay, so let's look at this. So instead of actually giving this thing 0, I can look at this 0 in terms of how do I store this data back to my local storage. So I can remove this 0 and then can just put up, right? This is actually a function. I can write an arrow function here. So I can say const saved value. So now one thing interesting is that I have to get the value before I store it. So that's how it works. Always know that. So I'm trying to get the value before I actually store it. Otherwise, if I try to store the value before I get it, it will first of all return 0 before returning the actual value from me. So that's how we have to get the item. So I'm now saying local storage dot get item, then the name of the item that I stored. So I can call it item value. Okay, item value. I mean, I can just call it item value. Let's call it item now. Can call it anything anyway. Okay. So I cannot do something like return. This is actually a function. So what do I want this function to return? I want it to return the saved value. So if this be a conditional, if my saved value is not the same thing as null, if it is not null, okay, what do I want it to do? I want it to actually let this be in base 10. So I can just say pass int the variable, okay, which I'm going to give a radic of 10. So it doesn't assume that it is base 16. So the variable is saved at saved var, okay, and the radic is 10, okay. So that is what I want to give it to be. So otherwise, give me back that 0 there. Put back that 0 there. If that does not work, just give me back the 0. So that is how you can actually save it. So I'm going to go to the cart item and do the same thing there. So in the cart item too, going to do the same thing here. Okay, so all right, so const saved cards. So I can call it saved cards. Okay, my saved cards will be equal to local storage dot. I wanted to get the item first before I actually tell it where it's going to get the item, and then the name of the item is saved cards. Okay, so just the same way that item numbers, saved cards. Okay, so that's fine. So what do I want it to return? So again, if my saved card is not null, is not null, is not null, if it is not null, so I want JSON.pass. So you can actually use JSON.pass to convert an item that is not to convert a JSON file back to a normal item. But I will actually show you this. So saved cards. Okay, so otherwise, if nothing is there, please return an empty array form. So exactly what I actually did before now. Return an empty array form. What do I actually mean by this? Going back to my terminal, and I try to bring out what I did before now. Okay, so I pass it Okay, so let's say this thing I passed, I save it as x equal to that. Okay, so when I look at my x, it gives me this. So I can actually say just dot pass x. I give it back x. So once it has passed it, you can see it has converted it back to a normal array. That is awesome. So exactly what we are going to, what we want it to do there. JSON.pass, JSON.stringify. So with this, we have succeeded in storing our value in local storage. Now, of getting our value in local storage, not actually storing it. So to store it, we need to handle the side effects that happens there. So we need a hook that can help us to handle that. And that hook that helps us to handle side effects is useEffect. Accept a function that contains imperative functional use code. Okay, so useEffect is what we use. So we have to also import useEffect from React. I see that it has imported it from React. Okay, so we have to create, so this is how useEffect works. So it's going to take a function just like what I did with useState there. It's going to take a function. Okay, so and I'm going to local storage dot set item. So set item, we use the set item to actually set the items that we have there. And then what is the name of the item that we want to set? Now, first of all, we're going to do this for item number. So item num. Okay. So I must make sure that the same name that I'm using here is what I'm going to use here. Okay. Set item dot item num. Okay, so for this set item takes two things. It takes the item and it takes the value of the item that I want it to store it. So in this case, whenever it sets it, that is me trying to set the item and I'm going to store it as var. So this is because this is for our var. This is because it's for our var. Okay, so I'm going to get it and store it as var. So that is the value that we have here. Okay, so this effect also expects us to, otherwise it's going to show up an error for us. It also expects us to handle an array of, I can just return var here. It's not actually compulsory that I'm going to really do that, but so I call useEffect again for the cat this period. Okay, so I'm going to call my arrow function inside here. Local storage dot set item. Okay, so and the item I'm going to set is saved item, saved cards. I mean, I just hope I'm getting these numbers right. I need to put this as a string. I'll turn it as a string. Okay. So, and then what value am I storing there? So JSON dot stringify. Stringify. Remember, I've explained what this stringify does for us. Okay, JSON dot stringify. So what is it going to stringify? It's going to stringify my cart items, which contains all the items that I have there. It's going to stringify my cart items. All right, so after stringifying my cart items, of course, it's going to have an effect of cart items here. Going to return it here. So let's actually look at this and see, does this really, how does it work for us? Does it really work for us? And we're going to look at this. So I try to add more things here. And now let's refresh, and after refreshing, we should still have 10 there. You can see that nothing is happening here. Even if I try to close this and I open it again, it's just running locally on my PC. I will always see that that value 10 will always be there. So where is this thing actually stored on my PC? You can open your Ctrl+Shift+I and go into applications. And from applications here, if you open your terminal, you can see local storage. You click on local storage and voila, you can see my saved value item here. You can see it here. So this is just another this thing I have here on the local storage. So I can just delete that one. So you can see, okay. So it's storing up these data. And this is the first one it stores and stored here. And of course, index 0 and also index 1, the other thing that is stored. So it's storing it up. So it stored this as item value. It stored this one as saved cards. Yeah. Yeah, and that is the value 6. So this 6 present that. So you can see the number of things it's storing from me here. So that is a simple way you can actually store something in your local storage. So even if you close this, you refresh it, the 10 will always be there. Okay. So in the next module, now we also look at how do you delete something from our cards.